morning again, everybody. This morning we're reading through Luke's chapter 20 through 22. And I'm going to start right in on verse 39 of Luke 22. And this is where Jesus is praying on the Mount of Olives before he's to be arrested and taken. So this is in 39 of 22. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. On reaching the place, he said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. When he rose from prayer and went back to the disciples, he found them asleep, exhausted from sorrow. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked them. "Get up and pray so that you will not fall into temptation." Some of you know, but maybe some of you don't. I had the awesome opportunity about 4 years ago, to go on a Holy Land tour. And I remember, there's so many things that I remember that are just ingrained in my brain from that. But one specifically was one early morning. Our first stop in Jerusalem was at the Mount of Olives, at the garden. And if you don't know this, the place where the garden is right now is the same place where the garden was back in Jesus' time. So, and actually several of the trees, they call them the Jesus trees, because the olive trees, it's not the same tree, but the roots in the ground keep shooting up new trees. And that's how an olive tree grows. It expands on what's already in the ground. And so more than likely, several of the trees in that garden were there when Jesus was. And that was kind of mind-blowing to think about. 2,000 years ago, here's a remnant of a tree that Jesus might have sat up against while he was praying. And I love, they had us do an activity when we were there. We were all supposed to go find our own spot in the garden and pray. And basically imagine that Jesus had just told us to go there and pray. Now, we were there early morning and this was late in the evening. And I can imagine that what was going through the disciples' minds is they were unsure about what was to happen. Jesus was telling them what was coming, but they still didn't quite believe, and they weren't sure when or how, and all they knew that they were supposed to sit here and pray. And Scripture tells us that they fell asleep. And being there, even though it was early morning, I could see how that would be an easy thing to fall into. Now, I was there, and I was like trying to take in all the sights and see everything, but it was very distracting for me to just sit there and pray. But that's what Jesus calls us to do. He calls us to calm ourselves, to right our hearts and minds, and to come before him and talk to him. Offer up our, confess sin, ask for forgiveness, so that we don't continue to fall into temptation. And I hope that I will never forget that. I actually picked up an olive that had fallen in the garden there and still have it to this day. It's as a reminder of that Jesus calls us to pray, even when it's difficult, even when it's distracting, even when we don't understand what's happening. Come before the Lord and pray. So I'd like to encourage you to do that. Have a great day.